Chapter 15, The Sewer Solution. Darcus's feet thumped the pavement as he ran. Baxter flew beside him. Virginia's long legs easily matched Darcus's pace. But eventually she called out, "Slow down!" "We've got to tell the police," Darcus gasped. "She's got Dad." "Darcus, stop," Virginia ordered, coming to a halt. He ran on for a few steps, then squatted to catch his breath. "You can't leave Bertolt behind," Virginia added. "What?" "He was hiding behind the blue van. Look, he's trying to catch us up. There's no time. What we need to do is think this through before we do anything crazy. How will the police help us? They haven't so far." "She's got him in a cell," Darcus said angrily. "We've got to get him out of there." "You're bleeding," Virginia leant over him to look. "All down the back of your neck." "Doesn't matter." Darcus checked Baxter was still flying overhead. "I'm fine. We need to rescue Dad." "Darcus, there's a massive splinter in your neck." Virginia put a hand on his shoulder and without warning whipped out the shard of wood. "Ah!" he cried, and his neck began to bleed in earnest. "You're hurt," Bertolt wheezed, finally catching up and sinking to the ground beside Darcus. "Must have been a splinter from the lift." Darcus put his hand up to his neck. "Lucretia Cutter shot something at me. She missed, but it smashed into the wood behind me." "She shot at you?" said Bertolt, aghast, as Newton zoomed up out of his hair, flickering angrily. "She didn't have a gun," Darcus thought about what had happened in Towering Heights. "She was pointing one of her walking sticks at me." "Are you serious?" Virginia said. Darcus looked at the blood on his hand. "She's a monster, and she's got Dad locked in a cell underground." He told them about the library and Novak, and about how she took him through the secret passage to the two-way mirror, about the photograph of his father on Lucretia Cutter's desk, about how brave Novak had been when they got caught, and how she had helped him escape back to the lift, about finding the room of angry insects with the yellow ladybirds, and then about how he'd heard his father's voice. "You saw your dad?" Bertolt was visibly upset by what he was hearing. "I didn't see him," Darcus said quietly. "I heard him. I called out and he heard me." He swallowed. "He called out my name, and then that stinking butler dragged me backwards through a door and hit me over the head." "That stinking butler may have saved your life," Virginia pointed out. "What about the beetles?" Bertolt asked. "Why does she want them?" "I still don't know," Darcus admitted. "She said something about them belonging to her and wanting them back. She wants to keep them secret. She said she wasn't ready yet. I don't know what that means. And then she said she wouldn't let anyone stop her." Darcus paused. "I don't know what's going on, but I think Dad may have been trying to stop Lucretia Cutter from doing whatever it is she's planning to do." "What we do know is that she's coming for the beetles tomorrow morning," Virginia added. "Tomorrow?" Bertolt squeaked. "That's not much time." Virginia nodded. "I know. This is bad," he blinked. "This is very bad." "There's something else." A horrifying image flashed into Darcus's mind of a swirling skirt and a giant serrated claw. He shuddered. "Ooh." Lucretia Cutter, he stopped, not knowing how to put into words what he'd seen. "After she hurt Novak, she turned to leave, and her skirt sort of lifted up, and it looked like, I think I saw a claw." "A claw?" Bertolt looked confused. "As part of her dress?" Virginia asked. "No, she had a big black claw like Baxter's. It was where her foot should be. She was standing on it like it was her leg. Like she had the legs of a beetle, but human-sized." Darcus heard himself saying the words, and he knew it sounded crazy. "Are you sure?" Virginia asked. "Yes, I'm sure." "Your mind could have been playing tricks on you, because you were scared." "Maybe it was a boot," Bertolt suggested. "A designer boot." Darcus shook his head. "I know what I saw." He looked back at Towering Heights. "She's a monster," he said again. Bertolt looked at Virginia. "What are we going to do?" "Darcus, we have to move the beetles tonight," Virginia said, "or they'll be dead in the morning." The sound of his dad calling out his name was ringing in Darcus's ears. "I've got to get Dad out of there." "To move the babies means moving their cups," Bertolt said. "All their babies, the eggs and larvae are inside. They won't leave without them." His face betrayed how impossible he thought the task was. "Even if we could move Beetle Mountain in one night, where would we put it?" Darcus felt all the energy in his body drain away. His t-shirt was stuck to his back with sweat and blood. He felt weak and his hands were shaking. "I don't know what to do," he admitted, covering his face with his hands. Baxter dropped down, landing on Darkus's fingertips, nuzzling the side of his horn against his forehead. Bertot patted his shoulder. It's okay. Things are better than they were this morning. How? Well, this morning you didn't know where your dad was, and we had no idea when the beetles would be attacked. He's right, Virginia nodded. Now we know just how stuffed we are. Bertot scowled at Virginia. The main thing is your dad is alive. He mimed at Virginia to say something nice. Virginia mimed back that she didn't know what to say. We need a plan. Darkus tapped his hands against his temples as he thought. Your uncle will know what to do about your dad. We should go and find him, Virginia said. But the beetles are down to us. We've got to save them. We made an oath. Darkus looked down at Baxter, now on the palm of his hand. If Lucretia Cutter says they're hers, Bertot said, thinking out loud, then perhaps she bought them through a special insect dealer. But then surely they'd have arrived dead with pins in, Virginia said. The real question is, why does she want to keep them secret? Do you think she knows about their, special abilities? Bertot looked at Darkus. Darkus nodded. I think that's why she wants them, and it's their abilities she wants to keep a secret. Because she's not ready yet. Virginia stroked her chin. This may sound crazy, but if the beetles belong to her, is it possible she's making beetles with superpowers? You said she had a room full of angry beetles in there, and a laboratory. How on earth do you make a super beetle? Bertot scoffed. Darkus blinked down at Baxter, thinking about the statues of the man, the beetle, and the double helix that were in Lucretia Cutter's white room. He remembered something Uncle Max had said. She's experimenting with DNA. DNA? Virginia frowned. It's the genetic code that makes up every living creature, Bertot explained. Oh, I know what DNA is, Virginia retorted. Uncle Max said that when Lucretia Cutter knew Dad, she was a geneticist. Bertot held his hand out for Newton to land. He cupped his glowing body to make a lantern. Do you think our beetles are clever enough to have escaped from her laboratory? I don't know, Darkus shrugged. Maybe. But why would Lucretia Cutter want to make super beetles? Bertot shook his head, unable to think of an answer. Who cares? She's got your dad, and if he was trying to stop her from doing something, then anything we can do to put a spanner in the works has got to count for something, right? Virginia reasoned. Let's fight her every step of the way. That's it! Darkus looked up, his eyes bright with an idea. It is? Bertot smiled hopefully. Tomorrow, when Lucretia Cutter is collecting her beetles, he lifted his hand holding Baxter, I'll rescue Dad from towering heights. You're going to sacrifice the beetles? Virginia looked shocked. No, of course not. Darkus got to his feet and straightened his shoulders. We're only just beginning to learn what the beetles can do. He thought about the angry beetles and towering heights and held Baxter out in front of him. I think we should convince the beetles in the mountain to stand their ground, to fight. What do you reckon, Baxter? The rhinoceros beetle bowed his horn and Darkus felt a thrill of defiance in his chest. Good. And if I'm right, when Lucretia Cutter arrives, there'll be a beetle army waiting for her, and that's the last thing she'll be expecting. He placed Baxter on his shoulders. We'll show her that she just can't take what she wants. Virginia cocked her head. Okay, this is beginning to sound good. I'm glad you think so, because you're going to have to lead the beetle army. Me? Virginia looked delighted. Bring it on.